Yay. Okay, we're recording. Okay, it's good to see everybody. I'm Kristyna Culp, and like Debbie said, I'm one of the master gardeners, one of the newer ones. And I met Kathleen. Actually, I'm not sure how we met. Somehow with the Plant Toolbox, take a photo of stuff in your yard and send it to us. Somehow that email got to me, and so I started working with the Plant Toolbox stuff and submitting photos, which was really cool. But Kathleen's been doing working with Extension Master Gardeners for 7 years now, and you worked on our handbook, right?
Yes.
And all the new materials. So that was part of my class. As an excellent book. I've told lots of people they need to go get that one too. But then the more lately, she's been working on the Plant Toolbox, which 2 hours ago had 4,300 plants listed on the Plant Toolbox. And as of 5 minutes ago, it has 4,301. So I don't know which one that is, but now I want to know which one. But she's going to walk you through the Plant Toolbox. It is fantastic. And like we just proved, every day they're adding new plants. So it's a great resource that we have with the state. So it's wonderful. And she's going to walk you through it, and you're going to be glad you came. Thank you. Take it away.
All right, thank you so much for that warm introduction, Kristyna. As she mentioned, I'm the project manager that has been working on the Extension Gardener Plant Toolbox now for the past 3 years, and I'm happy tonight to talk to you a little bit more about the project, how it started, and walk you through the actual toolbox itself. So, so this is the toolbox. The URL is there, and I thought we'd start off if in the chat box you could let us know, is this something that you have seen before? Are you familiar with the toolbox? Have you visited it? Do you use it regularly, or is this your first kind of introduction to the toolbox, or you haven't ever even heard of it before? Just kind of let us know where you are in that spectrum as we embark on our journey tonight. But that's the URL. I recommend saving it, bookmarking it so that you can find it easily when you need to use it. And just to give you a little bit of background on the project itself, so you understand its origins and the timeline that we've been working with, this was a grant that we wrote to the Southern IPM Center in 2017, and it was a 3-year grant for a total of $104,000 spread out over the 3 years. And that grant paid for staff coordination, my salary, as well as paying some of our IT developers to create the actual back end of the database. It helped to pay some summer work study students, as well as purchase some video equipment that some of the agents received to help us flesh out some of our plant records. So when we received this grant, we were really excited because we had a database, a plant database, and I don't know if any of you ever used the old database, but it was fairly clunky, and it had pretty limited number of photographs that were low resolution, and it had some good information, but it was pretty difficult to find the information about plants unless you knew exactly what you were looking for. The search features were not the best. So when we embarked on this project, we decided we needed to ask folks what they were looking for in plant information and what they were hoping to find when they came to a database or a plant toolbox like this one. And we surveyed agents, we surveyed master gardeners, we surveyed homeowners, and we did some focus groups. And from these surveys and focus groups, asking folks how they would like to use the information or what they were looking for, we came up with kind of some key points that folks were hopeful to find. And one of them was really those better search features. So being able to be really flexible in the categories or the details about the plant that you were looking for, very easy to adjust and add and take away features that you're interested in having and getting those search results. Having more detail in the plant descriptions. Some of the descriptions in our old database were pretty limited. adding more categories. So in our old toolbox, we didn't have weeds, for example. We didn't have vegetables. We didn't have a lot of landscape themes. We didn't really focus on pollinators. So adding more data points, more categories, more ways to capture information about the plants, and adding high quality photographs. So not just single photos of plants that show the plant in full bloom, and that's it, and that's all you see. Having really high quality photos that help people really get an intimate knowledge of the plant, getting to see how the leaves are connected to the stem, what the bark looks like, what the buds look like, seasonality, showing the plants throughout the seasons. Wow, it's gorgeous in spring, but it's going to kind of leave a hole in my garden in the fall, and I should maybe think about some other plants I can plant near that one because it doesn't look so great. Taking photographs that are in North Carolina specifically. So really beefing up on our photos. And one of the really fun things that we got from our focus groups was that, you know, it's great to have these plant databases, and I'm excited to learn about individual plants. That's all good and fine, but I want to be inspired before I start learning about plants. I want you to show me beautiful gardens and inspire me to learn more about how these plants are used in the landscape. And so that kind of spawned a whole new way of thinking, and really transformed us from just a plant database into what we now call as the toolbox, adding landscape design inspiration to it. And then we were just lamenting before everyone joined about Latin names and how frustrating they can be. And so we wanted to help folks in being confident in pronouncing Latin names, and so adding that to the toolbox. Some of the other kind of main points we got were that folks wanted help with identifying plants. So if you're a master gardener and you have clients that come in and bring a sample, what is it? We want the toolbox to be able to help kind of narrow down what you're looking for. Or if you just move into a new home and you're trying to ID what's there, or you go on a garden walk and you want to ID some of the plants, you know, we wanted to have an identification feature. And then, you know, adding some of these other things that we didn't see in other databases. We did look at what was available out there, and we wanted to be superlative, and, you know, we wanted to take the best of the best and do all the things that
Yeah.
the great databases.
I've lowered mine, so I was listening to you.
But somebody needs to mute themselves. Let me see who it is.
But you know, having things like winter interest and you know, finding plants that look good in the winter, or finding plants that will do well in different parts of North Carolina. So in Union County or in the Piedmont, some plants do really well there that maybe wouldn't do as well in the mountains. And so, you know, finding that regional specificity. So we knew what we wanted to do. We wanted to build an amazing resource that helped people find the right plant for the right place, identify a plant from a plant sample, and inspire people with designs. And we partnered with an amazing group of folks, not only from the university. We had professors, we had university staff, extension staff that all partnered with us, but also other outside organizations that came to the table and said, you know, hey, we've got data, or we have images. We would love to incorporate our information into your resource. And then, of course, you know, our Master Gardener volunteers have been a tremendous partner in this project. We've had over 100 Master Gardener volunteers from various counties that have contributed to making this toolbox the resource that it is. So we're very grateful for their contributions. So as we walk through the toolbox in just a minute, you'll see that it is divided into 3 sections. We have a plant selection section, which helps you find the right plant for the right place. You know, what kind of requirements do you have for your yard? And we're going to help you narrow it down and find the right plant for the right place. Plant ID. So you've got a sample, you would like to try to figure out what it is. We're going to try to help you narrow that down. And then the garden gallery section, that inspirational section of gardens throughout the state that inspire folks to plant, to be able to see plants in mature forms and in combination with other plants. And then, of course, you'll see our increase in beautiful photographs. We're able to offer alternate plant recommendations, which I'll show you. So if it's a particularly problematic plant, we can say, hey, why don't you try this alternative? Or why don't you try this native plant? We allow folks to create a shopping list. If there's a plant that they really like, they can check a little box and it will create a list at the end that they can print out and take to a nursery. We have QR codes on each of the plant records. So for demonstration gardens or for plant sales, you can pull that QR code. I'll show you how to do that. It's really easy, and you can place it on your plant signs or on your labels for your plant sale, and someone can just come up with their phone and scan that QR code. It will take them directly to that record in the database, and then you don't have to worry about typing in all the information on a label. It's all there. You know that it's constantly evolving and it's constantly being updated. So you're always giving people the most recent, accurate information about the plant. And again, it's less work on your part. And then, of course, our Latin name, audio, as well as phonetic pronunciation. And then we've added a video feature. So we're able to do small vignettes about each plant and add in a little video to that, and I'll show you guys that as well. Okay, so are there any questions before we go ahead and move from the PowerPoint to the toolbox itself, or was there anything that came up in the chat?
No questions yet.
Okay. Okay. I know that was a lot of information quick. I just wanted to give you guys kind of the structure so that when you see the toolbox, you understand where it all came from. Okay. So is everybody seeing the toolbox now?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the toolbox, our URL right up here, plants.ces.ncsu.edu. And you'll see it will change seasonally. So each season, our little banner photo will change. So in the fall, it'll be, I think it's red maple changing color. And in the winter, we have kind of a snowy scene. So you know which season we're in. And our featured plants over here on the left, those also do change with the seasons. These are ones that we particularly recommend for the time of year. And you'll see at the top this kind of light gray bar. This is our navigation bar. And so it appears on every single page. So you'll always have this navigation bar to work with. But we also have a way to start searching by just kind of typing in something right on this home page. If you'd like to do that, or these find a plant, identify a plant, they're the same buttons as these. There's just a different location. We do have a help page. So if there's something that you're kind of frustrated with or struggling with, you can click on our help page, and it kind of walks you through kind of some of the common questions and problems. And we are working on some short instructional videos on this help page that will help walk you through some of the common features that folks are looking for. We also have a glossary as part of the help section. And then over on the right-hand side here, you can see all of our partners that we have been working with to create this toolbox, additional partners, and then, of course, our other NC State Extension gardener sites as well. I just want to bring your attention to this little quick plants list over here. This is just a really fast way to look at some of our maybe more common search lists. It's just kind of a quick search list. So things like our showstopper plants. This was a program that was retired a few years ago, but was done in combination with extension agents as well as nursery professionals to select plants that really were winners in the nursery industry and just were well adapted and did very well here and looked great. So got those. We got native pollinator plants as a popular search. Low fire risk, highly beneficial coastal plants, plants that do well for wet sites. And so this quick plant list is something that's going to change and evolve. And if you have a recommendation for a list that you think would be helpful for folks, we're always taking suggestions. So as I mentioned, we have the website as Toolbox is broken down into 3 parts. So the first is find a plant, identify a plant, and our design gallery. So we'll walk through those in that order. So when you come to the website, if you do have a plant name already, a common name or a Latin name, you've got beautyberry, if you can start typing the name of what you're looking for, and you'll kind of see some options come up that you can select. So if you do know, if you do know a common name, or if you do know a Latin name, you can start typing in the name that you're looking for, and it will come up, and that will take you, right to that plant record. So that is one way. If you already know kind of what you're looking for, you can do that. But these 3 features are really where the toolbox shines and are ways at getting at some plants if you don't have a clear view what you're looking for. So I'm just going to click on this Find a Plant button right here, and you'll see this green bar comes up, Find a Plant, so you know that that's the section that you're in. And IT did an amazing job of building this toolbox. They actually were modeling it after Amazon and the way that Amazon shopping works. So this navigation bar over on the left here with the blue bars across the top, that will always be there. And what's really nice about that is it allows you to make changes as you go. So you can select things and unselect things, and you'll see kind of how it adjusts your searches as you go. And as Kristyna mentioned, we now have 4,301 plants in the toolbox. Our old database had just under 3,000. I think we had 2,990 something plants. So we've added a lot more plants, and we're constantly adding more. So you'll see this number get smaller as you select things that features that you are interested in, or features that are required of your site. So you can it might take you a minute to kind of see what all of the different options are for making selections. We have a lot, so it's very, very flexible. But all you do is just click on this little down arrow, this little gray and white down arrow, and it will expand on the options that are underneath each of the categories. And then next to the category, you'll see a number, and that tells you how many plants are in that particular category. And those numbers do adjust depending on what you select. So say that I'm interested in selecting a tree. I would like a tree, and I am in Union County, so I'm in the Piedmont. So I want to select NC Region Piedmont. And I have a fairly small place, maybe I live in a townhome, or, I've got kind of a courtyard garden, and I don't want a really large tree. I have about 12 to 24 feet that I'm looking for. And there could be other options that are important to you as you select these items. And like I said, as you click on the little down arrow there, it opens up the menu, so you can see things that matter to you. You can select those. I think that I would like something that is going to look really great in the winter time, because my winter garden is kind of drab. So I really want something that's going to shine, you know, kind of shine in the winter. And it is a pretty small space. So I am going to select, that. Okay. So maybe small tree. Okay, so as you saw, the number up here kept getting smaller. And if this is not enough options for you, kind of coming back, you can unselect something, and you'll get more. You'll get more options pop back up. So you can remove things that you're interested in, as well as keep adding them. But the nice thing is you'll always see how many you have. So it starts off really big with the 4,301, and it gets smaller as you select items. So let's take a look at this paperbark maple. And this is what a record looks like. So we do have, as we mentioned, the Latin name pronunciation. I'm not sure, sometimes folks can hear it, sometimes they can't. We'll see if you guys can hear this. I don't know if that was loud enough. Let's see. I'll try to turn it up. I don't know if you guys could hear that. But I promise you that if you go yourself, you will be able to hear the Latin pronunciation, so you can feel comfortable saying it. And we also have the phonetic spelling of the plant name. We do have a description of the plant that's kind of a little narrative that talks about the plant and maybe what to expect or any interesting features of the plant. And then we've got our beautiful photographs that you can click on and make a little larger. And we try to really give people a good sense of the plant itself and really show them all of the different features, as well as, some of these photos are really helpful with identifying. If you're trying to do an ID, it's really helpful to see kind of the close-up, the close-up of the leaves and seeing the margin of the leaves and, what does the fruit look like, the little samaras, the fruit there. And of course, paperbark maple, we want to see the gorgeous exfoliating, very showy bark that looks fabulous, especially in winter when the leaves are down. What do the buds look like? This is great for ID. So we're really trying to give folks a wide view of the plant itself and have them feel comfortable in knowing what the plant's going to look like throughout the year. We do have some information on insects, diseases, and other problems that the plant might run into, as well as on some plants we do have kind of some quick ID hints to help them. And then Debbie will recognize this one here. We do have the videos.
As a horticulturist, I am really a true tree hugger.
Can you guys hear it? Sort of?
No.
Not really? Okay. Okay, you can't quite hear it, but this is Debbie giving us a little preview of the plant and talking about it, giving us maybe a little bit more insight into the plant and how it's used, or some of the interesting features. So we're able to embed these videos that our agents have done, which are amazing, as well as some videos that we've partnered with Longwood Gardens on, and also our homegrown folks have created some videos. So we don't have videos of every single plant. That's one of our goals, but we do have quite a few up there. So as you're working through, you might see the video. So that's really, really exciting. So that's kind of the top part of the database. And then as you scroll down, you can see that the record is just flush with information. So if you are really studying this plant and you want to know more about, what's the fruit type, or, what's the description of the fruit, or, when exactly is it going to be flowering, or what's the, inflorescent type, this really dives into the nitty-gritty details about the plant, how it can be used, where it can be used, what it attracts, things that it's resistant to, things it's susceptible to, you know, all of its soil information. So it's a lot of really great data and details. And the beauty of all of this is, you know, this is what we use to help people navigate and find the plant that they're looking for. So all of that data about, you know, that it likes alkaline soil, you know, that's part of our searches, our ability to search. So there's a little narrative at the top, kind of introduces you to it. And then if you want to know more about the plant, if you scroll down, you can really see that there's more data, you know, about each plant.
Kathleen,
Mhm.
a couple of suggestions for ideas for categories for the quick lists.
Mhm.
Edibles and dry, an edible list and a dry shade list. And then somebody, Ann asked the question about, can you do a search for weeds without having to enter a specific name?
Yes, you absolutely can. So in plant type, just about edibles, we do have an edible category. So we do currently have 415 plants that are edible. So if you selected plant type and edible, it would come up with that, but we could certainly do that as a quick list as well. And dry shade is a great one. So thanks for those options. And then weeds. Weed is a plant type. So it wasn't a plant type in our old toolbox. And we went back and forth a little bit because, you know, are you really wanting to highlight weeds and talk to people about weeds? And we say yes, because people want to know what's growing in their yard. They want to know if it's a weed or not. And these plants are out there. So we did create a category called weeds, and we currently have 171 weeds in here. So we're adding more as we work. And we did have a graduate student actually help us with populating some of these records. She had the help of some master gardeners and some agents to get these records populated and get some beautiful photos that really show, you know, kind of some of the intimate details about the plant. So you can absolutely start just by saying, okay, I want to look for weeds, and then, you know, and then you can weed it down from there, and any other features that you're looking for.
And one other comment, Kathleen, I can't find it on my computer right now, but somebody comments that you must go to share computer sound in the controls to let us hear the audio from your computer.
Oh, okay, in the controls.
Yeah, that'll be recorded, so you'll be able to see that afterwards. I can't find it, but.
Okay, that's a great, thank you for that. I will definitely look into that because that is a great feature if you can hear what I'm hearing. Okay.
Maybe coming from somebody who's a teacher who's had to do this with kids. I don't know.
Yes, definitely. But it's very helpful to have that. So thank you.
Yes.
Are there other questions about the find a plant? So again, we're wanting to help folks find the right plant for the right place, directing them, directing them to good options, basically.
No more questions at this time.
Okay. And if someone, if someone is on a plant that maybe we would consider a plant that we would not recommend, we do have the option in the database to list for folks similar but less problematic plants. So we can, we can direct people to something else that might be similar but less problematic. If there are native alternatives to a particular plant, we have the option to say, hey, why don't you consider planting a native instead? And then we also have this often confused with, so sometimes, as we're doing our research, here in the records, you know, oh, this plant is often confused with this other plant. So if you're, you know, in a record and you're like, well, this doesn't quite look like what I'm looking at, you know, you can kind of come over to this, this left-hand bar over here and look at some of the options that might be the plant that you're looking for. But we're able to kind of gently usher people into better choices. And so when we have plants that are not ideal, we can suggest plants that might be better for that situation. So that is a neat feature and is part of our IPM mission, our integrated pest management mission, of finding that right plant for the right place, a plant that's going to be healthy, a plant that won't need as many resources, water, fertilizer, pesticides, because it's going to be happy where it is. So so the find a plant, right plant for the right place, and then we have the identify a plant. So this was designed not to be a dichotomous key. So for those of you that have taken the Master Gardener training, I'm sure you're familiar with dichotomous keys. It's what a taxonomist would use to be able to accurately and very precisely identify an individual plant. They're wonderful, but they're extremely difficult to navigate for the average person. And so what we wanted to do is kind of get folks maybe in the right direction, maybe get them to the right family or the right genus, or, you know, kind of a grouping of plants that they could maybe look at and say, oh yeah, I think that might be what I'm looking for. So, you know, if you have a neighbor who comes up to you, or you got somebody emailing you, or you're working the phones at the Master Gardener desk, and, you know, someone says, I have this plant in my yard, you know, shrub, can you help me ID this? And maybe they bring you in a sample. That would be ideal, right? Because then you could really look at it yourself. Or maybe they send you a photograph, and you can certainly ask for, you know, multiple photographs and hopefully get a lot of detail. But say this is the photograph that you're given, and so what is this plant? How can we ID this plant? So you would go to the identify a plant section, and the difference between, you know, find a plant and identify a plant is just that there are different options to select from, and these are more anatomical selections about the anatomy of the plant itself that will help you narrow it down. So I'm looking at this picture, and, you know, I can see the flowers are, whoa, in my face, and they're definitely kind of orangey red and yellowish looking. So that's a pretty obvious color that I can use. So I'm going to select orange and red and yellow for the flower color. If I have yellow, oh, maybe I don't have yellow. Oh, no, I do, golden yellow. And, you know, if I happen to be a Master Gardener, I might know what the inflorescence looks like. You know, if I'm a layperson or a homeowner, I might not know this, so I can leave that blank. Depending on, you know, when this was sent, you may know the bloom time. The person may have sent it and said, I took this today, you know, it's blooming today, it's blooming in the summer. You may know that, you may not. The flower petals, you can look and count, especially if you've got a good photograph of the petals. So this one has 5 petals on that flower. The leaves are obviously green, which is probably, you know, the most common color, and I can see that it looks like it is a compound leaf. So you can see where the leaf attaches to the stem there, and we have kind of that center rachis or center part of the leaf, and then it divides again, and we've got these little tiny leaflets. So this definitely looks like a compound leaf. So I'm going to come down here to leaf type, and I'm going to select compound. That's going to help me. And then you can see I've narrowed it down from 4,301 plants. I've narrowed it down to 4 now, and I can maybe, you know, click through these and see if any of these look like what I'm looking at. This one, maybe not. Looks like maybe it comes in a bunch of different colors, but it's not a multicolored flower, so that one doesn't look right. Oh, but look at this one. That looks like it's probably it. So you know, it's just, like I said, not a dichotomous key. It is not meant to 100% tell you, yes, this is the plant that you're looking at. And depending on how much information you have and how many of these you do select, and you select correctly, will depend on what your results are. But it can kind of get you in the right direction at least, or at least point you towards a goal so that you can properly identify a plant. So that's the second section. Are there any questions about identify a plant?
No, you must be doing a really good job.
Okay. Okay. Well, and then the third section, which is probably my favorite. I'm really, really excited about this section. This is something that you just really don't see in a lot of plant databases. Most plant databases are just about the plants themselves. But this, like I said, came from the results of our surveys and focus groups about adding a gallery. And so, so this is our design gallery, and we have 104 gardens right now, but we're hoping to have hundreds more. We'd love to have lots and lots and lots of gardens for folks to browse through and pick from. You can certainly just scroll down and look and see if anything strikes your fancy that you'd like to look at. But as you know, as these pages get bigger and bigger, because we get more and more options, you may wish to use our navigation bar over here on the side. So again, as you can see, when you're in the design gallery section, you have different choices, or actually more limited choices for what you're looking for. But we have landscape theme, landscape location, where on the property are you looking to create a garden or modify a garden, or do you have a specific design feature that you're trying to highlight? You really want, you know, something for security, or you're really looking for some understory, you know, understory plantings. Is there something you're really wanting to attract to your yard? You're looking for some examples of gardens that are really good at attracting certain things. Or do you have specific challenges in your yard that you're trying to avoid? And just so you do know, all of these landscape options are searchable options on the individual find a plant section. They are all there. These are all things you can search for when you are trying to find a plant as well. You can see landscape right here. So all of these are searchable for individual plants as well. So if you, in particular have deer problems and you're looking for deer resistant plants, there you go. There's almost 1,200 plants in the toolbox that are deer resistant. So those are all available for the find a plant, but specifically for the design gallery, we're talking about kind of whole gardens and what features do they offer. So just to walk you through how you would maybe go about, looking at some of these. Say you wanted to, you've got shade in your yard and you want to attract butterflies, and maybe you are, you're near a walkway. So you can see we went from 104 gardens. We're now down to 6 gardens. And so it's a little more manageable, and you could kind of scroll through these and see, see which ones strike your fancy. And you'll see that we have both demonstration gardens from around the state, just like this Buncombe County Extension Office demonstration garden, as well as the Susanna Weasley garden, Paul G. Steiner Botanical Garden. And then we also have individual homeowner gardens. So we have kind of a combination, gardens that you could visit yourself, as well as individual homeowners that are sharing their gardens. But let's just say that I have some shade, but I also have some sun. Let's check this one out. This is a demonstration garden. So I know I could go see this one if I wanted to. And just like the plant descriptions, we have a garden description. So just an introduction to the garden, how it started, how it's used, maybe some features that you wouldn't notice just by looking at the photos. And then we have the photos of the gardens, and you can click on them to make them larger and look at them. But also you'll notice that we do list the plants that are in the photo. So you've got this really hot pink one right in the center, and you say, what is that? I want to know what that plant is. And if you scroll down, you can click on that plant and it will bring you to the record. So it lets you know this is more information about that plant. Is this really the right choice for your garden? And it's a good way to direct people to the plant records themselves. The nice thing is it's a back and forth. So if I just happen to be in this plant record because I was looking for, a pink flower, and I just happened to be in here. If the plant is highlighted in any of our garden galleries, then this section does show up. So you can see that these are all the different gardens that this plant happens to be in. And you can say, ooh, okay, well, let me see, what does this plant look like, in this garden? Or what does it look like in this garden? So it's a way for us to direct people to the gallery and back and forth to the plant records themselves. So we were in the sun and shade. The nice thing about the garden gallery is that we can show the gardens over time. So you can see these photos were taken in the summer, but we can show people this is what it looks like in the spring. So you can see the tulips are coming up. We're thinking about seasonality. We're thinking about pollinator habitat throughout the seasons, and and then this is what it looks like in the winter. And we've left some of the plant material there as cover and food for wildlife in the winter, but just letting people know what things look like. This happened to be a conversion garden, so showing folks what it looked like when it was first started, and then also letting people know the age of the garden, so they understand, wow, in just 2 years it looks really great, and that's not much time at all, and look at how nice it looks. So letting people know kind of a timeline on the garden. So it does offer us a lot of flexibility in adding photos over time as well as over seasons, and then allowing us, like I said, to highlight gardens that are in neighborhoods or are in people's backyards as far as demonstration gardens or botanical gardens that they could go and see themselves, as well as highlighting some gardens that that folks are are really proud of. We've got lots of master gardeners that have done an amazing job of sharing their gardens with us. So if we were really interested in Asian gardens, and we had we're really concerned about having a beautiful specimen tree. Okay, now I've narrowed it down, and I've got this lovely Asian garden, a Zen garden, and I can see all the beautiful plants that are in there, as well as over time through the spring. And we're hoping as the seasons change and as the toolbox evolves, we'll be able to populate each of these with more photographs and really show people some of that seasonal difference. But it's I think a cool tool to help direct folks into choosing great plants, and then also really letting them see how it's going to behave, because sometimes just having a photo of the plant by itself only, it's hard to see, like, oh wow, that really does kind of take over that area, or wow, that looks really great, that color looks really great planted next to something that's chartreuse. It really brings out the color of the leaves or something like that. So it's a great way. One of our goals is to have more, what we'd love to have is some more schematics of designs, showing folks what a landscape drawing would look like, and then actually showing them the garden planted. So that's kind of one of our projects is working with the landscape architect, College of Landscape Architecture, and getting some of those transferred over. So I think there's a lot of potential for increasing not only the number of gardens, the seasonality of the gardens, the maturity, but also just being able to show folks, this is what it looks like when you draw it, and then this is what it looks like in real life. And yeah, I just think it's a great way to really give people a firm idea about how quickly stuff grows as well. This crevice garden in Guilford County is a great example. This is when it's first planted, and people look at that and say, oh my gosh, it looks like there's nothing there and everything's so tiny. And then just a little while later, a couple years later, look at how huge and beautiful and gorgeous everything is, and just really filled in. So thinking about that mature size, that's another way that we can utilize the design gallery. Okay, are there any questions about the gallery or anything else that I?
No questions, but comments saying, one person says they appreciate the good deep dive into using the toolbox. Another says they'll definitely be using it. Wow, love this resource. We just moved last year, and I'm working on a backyard patio garden.
Oh, great. Excellent. Excellent.
One person says it's obvious how much time and planting went into this website. I think I just found my latest distraction.
Well, that's great. That's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, and just I think just kind of playing around with it a little bit and getting to know it a little bit more is fantastic. If you do use the navigation features on the side, I think that's a great way to go. You can try to search for keywords as well. You're doing a patio garden. You can search for patio, and we do have some plants that are tagged patio planting or patio tree, and so some of those would come up if you did a keyword search. So we're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible, so you can search for keywords or looking at it, landscape location, patio, clicking there. So yeah, that's great. Definitely have some fun trying to find what will work best for you guys. Okay, I'm gonna jump here. So I just have a couple more little slides. So for those of you that are master gardeners, we have, as I mentioned, an amazing team. Kristyna is part of that team. She's been wonderful, and they have done a tremendous amount of work to get the toolbox up and running and populate the records with data as well as with photos. And so if that's something that sounds interesting to you, it's a great way to work in our COVID times. You can work at your own pace. There's no required amount of hours or anything, but you're able to learn about plants while you do some great things for the toolbox, or you could contribute photos if you're a hobby photographer or you like taking pictures of your plants. We are always looking to add more photos of the plants in North Carolina, especially. And I just wanted to remind everybody just gently, we are still considered under construction. We are out there. It is out there for anyone to look at, but we are still very actively adding information, adding photos, adding more data to each of the records. So it's definitely not complete. And if you run into any problems while you're using the toolbox, like, hey, I tried to find this and it didn't produce the results I thought it would, if you want to drop me a line and just let me know. We're always troubleshooting. We're trying to make sure that the searches are working the way people are wanting them to be used. So yeah, please, if you do have any questions or suggestions, or problems or anything, just please feel free to drop me a line. One other thing that I did neglect to mention was that we worked really hard to try to make all of our photos, or at least as many photos as possible, when we source them to have what's called a Creative Commons license. So what that does is basically master gardeners or even lay people that are, looking to use the photos for, for educational purposes, you can utilize these photos. You can use them in your PowerPoints, you can use them in your flyers, you can use them in your newsletters, articles, any of your online information. You're able to use these photos just by following the Creative Commons license restrictions. So if you click on the little button down there, it tells you what you can do with it, and it's pretty easy once you do it a little bit, but also crediting the photographer. So as long as you're crediting the photographer and you're using that Creative Commons license the way it's meant to be, most of the photos that are up on the database are usable for folks. So that's one of the things we strived really hard for. We wanted it to be a resource that was going to be easy for people to use. So in the past, you would have to contact the photographer directly and say, hey, could I use your photo for this purpose? And Creative Commons licenses, by placing that on there, basically the photographer is saying you're able to use my photo as long as you credit me, and you use it under the restrictions that I lay out in my license. But it's for educational purposes. It's very easy to use these photos. So I just wanted to make note of that for especially for the master gardeners and agents that is on there.
Kathleen.
So
That's a great tip. That's a great tip.
oh, okay.
Another part, someone typed into the chat box that they'll be using this as a way to plan future additions to their garden. And then they mentioned the iNaturalist app that you can put on your phone for plant ID. And the way that works is you send a picture to the app and they ID the plant or animal, and they get, it's not always 100%, but they get close. And then you might could go to the toolbox and get closer.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's a great kind of jumping off point. iNaturalist is amazing, and it does work pretty well. But you do end up usually getting a few, and you have to kind of sift through them. So yeah, having that kind of curated list, and then go to the toolbox and really suss it out. And like I said, our goal is to really show you those ID type of photos that are going to help you. Oh yeah, I see that underside of that leaf is really hairy, or those buds are really pointy, or things that will really help folks be able to positively ID what they're looking at. So. And then I was going to ask, because Kristyna's worked with us on the toolbox and has contributed beautiful photos to the toolbox. If you had any favorite features, Kristyna, or any things that you liked.
Well, see, I had not looked at the garden design section lately. Wow, it is fantastic. That is just really inspiring, and I need to go outside and start working on my garden, clearly a lot. But what I thought was really interesting is when I offered to take photos. I take photos of plants all the time. I mean, so I thought, well, this is easy. I'm already doing it. But I learned so much by doing that, because you guys want details, the underside of the leaf, the margin of the leaf, the petiole, the everything. And so I didn't have pictures of that. So I got to go out and meet my friends again and take more pictures of plants. But, and you guys also like them, like I just took a picture of blue-eyed grass, the way it looks right now, which is not so great. It looked fantastic, in April, May, June, but now it looks kind of crappy. So you're going to get a picture of that soon.
Yeah.
Yay.
Well, and I think that's what other resources, they really shy away from, showing you the plant if it doesn't look that great. But I think it's important to understand, hey, in the summer, this isn't going to look really good. So what do I need to have that's going to be,
hide it. Something to hide it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just by making photographs for you guys to share with you guys, I have learned a ton more about plants. I mean, I guess every time you do something, you learn a little more, but it's been really fun to do that. So you guys, if you're interested in that, definitely check in with Kathleen and send her some photos. you know, there's certain ways you got to do it, but it's easy once you get the hang of it. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, and master gardeners, you know, in Union County, that can be counted as volunteer time.
Yay.
Yeah, get some hours. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
nowadays it's a little hard to get those. So, you know,
Yeah.
certainly it's very safe for you to go take photos in your backyard or front yard or whatever yard.
Yeah, and we would love more yards. So if you know, if you have a garden you're proud of, we would love to show it. Again, we want to show folks real gardens, you know, and we do show the demonstration gardens, which are, you know, have a staff most of the time, but we want to show people what is achievable in an average homeowner's yard as well. So not just the airbrushed, you know, Better Homes and Gardens, we brought in 500 flats of annuals to, you know, fluff it up before we took the pictures. We want to show people the real thing, so they know what's achievable. And so if you have a garden or your neighbor, you know, has a great garden, we'd love to really flesh that out and have a lot of different examples, so that when folks are looking for certain themes, we've got, you know, 5 or 6 gardens that they could browse through. So we would love to have that.
Awesome. There's no more questions, Kathleen. And I don't know, Kristyna, do you want to close out the meeting and maybe talk about the one coming up in September?
Yes, if you could remind me what it is. I have no recollection of the topic. Oh my God.
It's going to be me. I didn't know whether to put you on. Remember, I'm going to talk about fall lawn care.
Yeah, fall lawn care. That's it. Debbie. Yeah, thank you.
That's going to be a hard act to follow, let me tell you.
Yes, but that is really, really important if you have a lawn. I don't
Yeah.
have one, but if you have one, because crabgrass dies, right, in the winter.
Yeah, it's a summer annual. Yes.
Yeah, so I won't have a lawn really, well, not soon enough. But yeah, so Debbie's gonna talk about how to take care of your lawn in the fall and kind of wrap it up, you know, so you don't have to keep mowing it, I hope. You don't have to mow it all winter, do you? That would be awful.
Well, you know, last winter it stayed pretty warm, and
True.
some of the cool season grasses like tall fescue did have to be mowed almost all winter long.
That's just,
So, you know, we'll touch on some of that stuff, but for the fall, it's, you know, it's mostly cool season grasses that we'll be talking about, but I'll touch on warm season grasses too. And I'm thinking, Kathleen, I'm in the process in my own garden. I'm building a paver patio and I had to dig out a bunch of soil. So it's like, what do I do with that soil? I'm reducing my lawn because now I have made a new bed in the middle of my lawn that's like 14 by 30. And so I'm documenting that with photos. So maybe once I get it planted this fall, I'll send you some photos.
That would be amazing. We would love to include that for sure. And we do have a lawn alternative tag if you're looking for plants that would maybe fill that space as withstanding foot traffic kind of, you know, lawn alternative. There's lots of plants obviously that you could plant, but yeah, and we are in the process actually of working on another grant to possibly incorporate some of turf files into the toolbox as kind of a next stage. Turf files was taken down, as you guys probably know, and so we're looking at possibly trying to incorporate that, and so educate people about turf, and then if they're looking for alternatives, of course, giving them lots of options of, hey, you could also plant this if you don't want to have an endless sea of turf. So that's,
you said turf files is being taken down?
yeah, the diagnostic section
Oh.
of it and the photos. Yep. So we did add turf as a possible plant type. We just need to figure out if we can possibly harvest some of their photos and some of their data, and maybe kind of incorporate that so that it's not a lost resource completely.
Yeah, because I mean, I've only been in North Carolina for 5 years, but I worked for Cooperative Extension in Virginia for over 22 years. And I've been using the Turf Files website for years and years and years because it was such a good site. And I just used it yesterday or day before, and it's still there. One other question has come in. Georgianne asked, is there a way to save a plant for later reference?
Oh, yes. So sorry. I did miss that. On every single record, there is this little blue add button. And so if it's a plant that you like, it will add to your shopping list. And you'll see once you add a plant that up in this gray toolbar up here, you'll see a new little list button that appears, and so you can have your list kind of saved as the ones that you would like. And I did mention about the QR codes as well. Those are at the bottom of every record. They're right here, and you simply right click with your mouse to save the image, and you save that image to your computer, and you can drop it into any file for plant labels or
so you're talking about the QR box itself. Okay, not the image of the plant.
Yep, the QR box. Yeah, if you want to save an image of a plant, same thing. You would just click on the image and right click, save the image as, and it will save the image to your computer wherever you want to save it. So you're able to save the pictures from the toolbox as well, just by right clicking. So you can save pictures or that QR code if you want to place that on, like I said, a sign or a newsletter or anywhere that you want people to be able to get to that plant record. That's that QR code that was mentioned.
That's awesome. I think one of at least maybe two of our people from our sales team where they do the plant sales is on this meeting, so maybe they'll pick up the idea of using the QR codes on some of the signage that they have at the plant sales for people.
Well, and I was even thinking about in the garden, use the QR codes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and IT was very adamant from the beginning, and we're extremely grateful. They were very adamant about making the toolbox mobile friendly. So on a phone, it still looks good. I don't know if you guys have ever tried to go to some websites on your phone. When you use them on the computer, they look fine, but you try to go to that website on your phone, and it's really hard to see stuff, and you have to scroll all over the place, and it just doesn't look right. They were very adamant that the website looks good on a phone. So if people are out in the fields, or in your demo garden or at your plant sale, and they have their phone with them, it will take them right to the record, and they'll be able to browse it and look at the pictures really easily on their mobile device. So that's a good feature as well.
There are no more questions.
Okay, all right.
Last call. If you've got questions, now's the time to pose them to Kathleen. She's our expert. We didn't tell you that she's coming to us from the West Coast tonight. Is it Washington State?
Washington State, yep. Washington State,
Wow.
yeah.
So she really, truly does work remotely.
Yes.
When you started, though, you were in North Carolina, right?
Yes.
State? Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, okay. Thank you, Kathleen. We thank you so much for your time and sharing your expertise with us about this plant toolbox, because I've learned a lot tonight, and I can see it being helpful in my job, using it more than I have been in the past.
Well, great.
And so I just want to segue and remind you that September 3rd will be our next Successful Gardener program at 7 o'clock. It will be via Zoom. And I will be the speaker and be talking about fall lawn care. So, if you want to learn a little bit more about lawns, not necessarily how to reduce them so much, but, fertilizing, soil testing, that type of thing, and other things you might can do in the fall, that's what we'll be talking about. So thank you, Kristyna. Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks to everybody for joining us tonight. I was a little worried that we might have a thunderstorm that might knock us offline, but thankfully that didn't happen. Though I could use rain, I don't know about the rest of you. So with that, I will end the meeting and hope that you can join us in September. Thanks
Thank you,
again.
Kathleen.
All right, thank
Awesome.
you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Good night.
All right, good night.